Chapter 12. The Prophet's Chamber. Viv and I had much company, and although we had 3 bedrooms, because of the size of our family, it was necessary to crowd in together when we had visitors overnight. One day, we heard that Dr. and Mrs. Jepson had a prophet's chamber, a room reserved for visiting missionaries, ministers, and other full-time workers for the Lord. Vivian, realizing our need for more room to entertain God's servants, said that we, too, should pray for a prophet's chamber. This struck a responsive chord in my heart, and we began to pray together for this need. One day, shortly thereafter, while Viv was reading the Bible, she read this verse, "Let us make a little chamber, I pray thee, on the wall, and let us set for him there a bed, and a table, and a stool, and a candlestick. And it shall be, that when he cometh to us, that he shall turn in thither." 2 Kings chapter 4, verse 10. When she told me this, Viv and I came to the conclusion that God gave us this verse as a command and as His approval of our building a prophet's chamber. Not long after this, a man we did not know, by the name of Tim, came to see us. He told us that our friend, Grover Cannon, had shared with him that we were praying for a man to build us a prophet's chamber, and that, in turn, God had spoken to Tim that he was the man to build it for us. What a thrill to us to have God speak to this man to answer our prayer. We had no extra money, so it was a challenge and test to our faith. But we reasoned that if the Lord wanted us to have a prophet's chamber, surely He would take care of the cost. We showed Tim an upstairs back porch overlooking the Puget Sound, which was ideal for this purpose. He said it would require considerable work to enclose it, but that it could be done. Then he turned to us and said, "Shall I order the lumber and materials COD?" Viv and I looked at each other in agreement and said, "Yes, Tim, send the materials COD, and we will pay the bill when it comes." Tim took the measurements, called the lumber company, and ordered the materials. We had no idea how much money it would take, and we did not tell him that we did not have any money, but we knew that God understood all about it. It was wonderful to see how God answered this prayer. The next day, Friday, we received $100 in the mail. Today's value approximately $1,600. Very seldom did we receive so much money. We first thanked God and then tithed the money and purchased a few needed groceries. On Saturday, we had $86 left, and therefore assumed that this would be the amount of the lumber bill. The lumber did not come until Monday. When it arrived, we instructed the delivery man where to pile the lumber, and while he was doing this, Viv and I knelt in prayer, reminding the Lord that we had to have money enough to pay this bill. While we were praying, the mailman came and left a letter containing a $1 bill, followed shortly by the delivery man who presented us with the lumber, which amounted to $86.65. If God had not sent that $1 just at that time, we would not have had enough money. After tithing from the $1, we still had enough money to buy a loaf of bread. How wonderful it is to have a God who takes care of the smallest details. With the money, we gave a tract to the delivery man, and after he left, we again knelt and praised the Lord for what He had done. Surely the Lord's blessing and approval was in the building of this prophet's chamber. Tim came the next day and started to build. He worked a few days, then he did not come for 4 days. When Tim came back after his absence, he told us the following story. 3 years ago, I had a bad accident while working on the waterfront as a longshoreman. I was hit with a crane in the back so hard that my stomach burst open and my bowels gushed out in front. The blow also broke several vertebrae. As my back healed slowly, after months in the hospital, the cartilage in my back grew together in the wrong way. Quite often, something happens to my back and I have to bend over double, and it takes 2 or 3 days before I can straighten up again. Because of this, I have not been able to work for over 3 years, except occasionally to help someone, as I am helping you. We could see that this injury was a great trial to Tim, but he told us not to worry, that if we were not in too big a hurry, he would be able to complete the prophet's chamber for us. One day, I told Tim how the Lord had recently healed Vivian in answer to prayer. My wife had not been feeling well for some time, and when she went for a checkup at the doctor's, he discovered that she had a tumor. This tumor, the doctor explained, was serious and must be removed immediately, as it might even be malignant. We told the doctor that we were home missionaries living by faith and could not do anything without first praying and asking God for His directions. It was difficult to explain our belief to the doctor, but we endeavored to do so by saying, "We believe God uses doctors to help people in their sickness and operations, but we also believe that God is not limited to doctors, that He is still the great physician and can heal any and all diseases, including tumors. All we can do, doctor, is pray and ask Him if He wants us to operate or if He wants us to trust Him for the healing." As we left his office, the doctor again tried to impress us with the urgency of a quick decision. We prayed for some days, and then, one Sunday evening as we were getting ready for church, the Lord spoke to my wife and said, "Go to Mr. Kilgore." The Lord had used this Christian and Missionary Alliance minister many times in praying for the sick. Instead of going to church, we went over to see this minister. He instructed us out of the Word regarding healing, bringing many scriptures to our attention. Isaiah 53, verse 5. "But He was wounded for our transgressions, He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon Him, and with His stripes we are healed." Matthew 8, verse 16 and 17. "When the even was come, they brought unto Him many that were possessed with devils, and He cast out the spirits with His word, and healed all that were sick, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by Isaiah the prophet, saying, Himself took our infirmities and bare our sicknesses." James 5, verses 14 through 16. "Is any sick among you? Let him call for the elders of the church, and let them pray over him, anointing him with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if he has committed sins, they shall be forgiven him. Confess your faults one to another, and pray for one another, that ye may be healed. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much." As Viv and I listened to these verses, our faith increased, and we both believed that God was going to heal her. Mr. Kilgore then anointed my wife with oil, according to James 5, verses 14 through 16, and prayed for her. Viv expected that her body would be touched immediately and that she would feel better instantly, but instead she felt worse and her faith began to waver. The Lord, however, gave Edna Lee Lewis, one of our King's Teens workers, and me faith to believe that God had touched Viv's body. Viv would say, "I don't think I am healed because if I was, I would feel better." Daily, though, the Lord gave Edna Lee and me the assurance that Viv was healed. Together, we continued to thank the Lord for healing Viv, even as she continued to feel worse. This went on for about 30 days, and then, one evening, she passed the tumor. We decided that the healing should be verified by a doctor, and we went to a specialist for women for a complete physical checkup. The doctor said he could see the scar where the tumor had been, but that there was nothing wrong now. God had done a perfect job. As we told Tim this, he asked, "Do you think the Lord could heal me now?" I told Tim that the Lord was no respecter of persons and that He could heal, but also that He expected us to believe and trust Him. A short time after this, Tim attempted to get a settlement for this accident from the state. The state refused to settle, but rather decided that there should be another operation on his back to insert a steel brace to help keep him from doubling over. However, this steel brace also meant he could never bend again. While he would never be able to be gainfully employed again, at least the brace would prevent him from bending double. Tim again came to ask about healing, and I told him he had to make up his mind about what to do. Tim, either believe the Lord that He is going to heal your body or trust in the doctors, but you cannot ask the Lord to heal you with the thought in mind that if He doesn't heal you, you can always have the operation. You must believe that He's going to heal your body. Tim prayed over the weekend, and on Monday morning he came and said, "I have called and canceled the operation. Will you go with me to be anointed and prayed for?" Again, we went over to Mr. Kilgore of Simpson Bible School. He explained to Tim about healing, and then Tim was anointed with oil. While we were on our knees, Tim jumped to his feet and cried, "I've been healed! I've been healed!" I, too, knew he had been healed because I had felt the touch of the Lord in my own body as he was prayed for. The very next day, he went back to the longshoreman's job where he had been working and reported to them that he had been healed. Tim was checked over completely by the doctors, and even though they couldn't explain it, they pronounced him cured. Tim got his old job back and immediately was able to carry heavy weights on his back again. He was faithful to finish our prophet's chamber, and as far as I know, he is well to this day. I believe in divine healing, but I do not believe that the Lord is confined to this method. I know the Lord has provided doctors to minister to our bodies as well. Luke, the companion of the Apostle Paul, the author of the Gospel of Luke and the book of Acts, was a physician. The Lord must be the one to get all the glory, whatever method is used. As we lived by faith, we found that He was not only sufficient for the money we needed, but He was able to provide our spiritual and physical needs as well.